Tom and Elijah here with Wasteland Weaponry. Today we are going over the Mark 12. All right, so the Mark 12 is a GWAT vibe. Most people go to it for the tube, and I do apologize that the intro wasn't a little more fitting with a lot more shooting, but we don't have an ammo sponsor, and 77 grain OTMs are not cheap. However, the MOD-H would have been the first variation of this rifle. It looks similar, at least on the front end, as long as you exclude the 18-inch barrel that would have been included. The MOD-1 would have dropped this tube for a railed front, still keeping the 18-inch Douglas barrel and going to a crane stock on the back end. And then this is a MOD-H, or a variety of it, dropping the 18-inch barrel down to a 16, losing the complete flat top rail, and keeping the crane stock, or in some aspects they went with kind of a weird Nerf fixed setup. I don't prefer that. I definitely prefer the crane. The MOD-1 was probably the most popular. Definitely put the most people in the dirt. The Knights rail is definitely cool, but I just prefer the look of the tube, as do a lot of people building these rifles today. That said, a lot can be said for the capability of these guns, even if they've been replaced now. The Army went to the M110, which is why I went for the 16-inch variant of this rifle. Most of them come with a nice long tube suppressor on the end, and that's what I plan to do once the ATF stops fucking me in the ass. The M110 is what replaced this rifle for the Army, and I own one of those, at least from the Palmetto variety as well. That being said, I don't really need the extra reach of an 18. If I know I'm going to be shooting past 700, I'll reach for my bolt gun or that M110. Additionally, the Marine Corps switched completely and kept a 5.56 platform, but they went with an HK. The M27 kind of squad automatic rifle can be outfitted as their squad designated marksman rifle. I think they call it the M38 or something of the sort. It's essentially an M27 HK piston gun that they built out as a precision rifle for a squad. The guns might have changed, but their place hasn't changed at all. These are still incredibly accurate rifles, especially considering they're only pushing a 5.56 round. Let's get into the breakdown now. We're back in the armory / gunroom man cave. Welcome to my humble abode. We're gonna start from the rear, work to the tip. I got the Voltor E-Mod. I just think it's a vibe. That's it. I like cranes on rifles that are a little bit longer, fully built out, not lightweight already. There's a huge can on the front. Night Force. We should address that. If you berate the ATF in your intro, 2 days later, they will release your can because they're that salty about being berated. So if your can's been in jail more than a month, go ahead, make a quick YouTube skit, diss them hard, and boom, they'll release your can from jail. So that's the quick tip for you. Back to the stock. It's the Voltor E-Mod. I do like that it's got this flat face. If I'm shooting prone, I'm that guy that kind of shoots like this, etc. So that gives me something to kind of hook into and push that rifle up against the shoulder. Other than that, it's purely looks. I just think it looks great. It's sitting on a Strike Industries advanced receiver extension. It's a buffer tube, and that buffer tube goes into a bit of a kind of weirder, it's from Fortis. It's to avoid like staking your castle nut. It's two pieces, they screw into each other, and there's a little latch that catches the teeth each time. I just wanted to give it a shot. I was throwing some money at this build, obviously. Just trying a few things out for the first time. And overall, I wouldn't not recommend it. It's a great piece of kit, but for the money, I think, hey, just stake your tube. It's not like you stake your castle nut. It's not like you're taking your buffer tube, there we go, off that often. Inside the tube, I got the Super 42 and an H3. That's just is what it is for the gun. Works great. I typically would run an H2, but on this, again, trying a few new things, wanted to give the H3 a try. As far as the Strike Industries tube goes, if I'm custom building a gun, I typically pick that one. It's got some kind of nice like cut edges in here that looks good. It's one of the few things Strike Industries makes that doesn't look like it's supposed to be on Star Trek. Moving a little bit forward, Die Free Co. I'm sure you guys have heard of them at this point. Brownell stocks them. Every one of their brothers got one on their gun. It's because they're a vibe. Yeah, they're just sick. They've got a wizard that like works in shop and figured out just the ultimate perfect angle for an AR grip. I think the only AR I have that now doesn't run this grip is my Rattler. It has the Emissary. It's a little bigger palm swell, a little more angled. It's a really tiny gun, so this gun, I can almost shoot it like a handgun because of the grip. Other than that, I run the Difrico on pretty much everything. I even have a pistol grip shotgun that I run Difrico on now. Full disclosure, obviously I'm into media. I'm a photographer. Previous to this is my first foray into video. I take pretty pictures. Companies sometimes want pretty pictures. They sent me some grips. I was like, hey, these are pretty sweet, so that's the relationship I have with them. That said, I wouldn't run their grip on nearly every AR I have if I didn't, simp hard and think they're sick. So it's not like, oh, I have a relationship, so buy a Difrico. It's just like, hey, they sent me some free grips and they actually are friggin' sick, so now I just run them on a bunch of my builds. Moving up, I have the Geissele Ambi Safety. Nothing against Radian. They are pretty wicked. However, I wanted a kind of a more classic look on these with still having the Ambi. Plus, the click is nice. I like that hard click on that. It's super great. Love it. I've started on all the more classic guns. I have a Car 15. It's got the same safety. Trigger pack is from Geissele. Yes, Geissele is God. I also have full internals, are just Geissele parts for easy sake. You don't have to buy Geissele internals. It's just what I do. They always work for me, so I spend a little bit extra cash. I just put full Geissele's in there. Trigger, though, is the single stage Precision. First single stage I've ever run. Man, this thing rocks. I mean, it is just like, oof, yeah. I think I may switch to a single stage on the Rattler as well, just because it's so fast to run. You can get nasty, really quick follow-up shots. And there's no take-up, instant break, and then the reset is ooh, right there. It's a great trigger. Geissele makes great triggers. I'm not saying anything new here. This isn't a revolution. Cool. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Cool. Single stages, though, give them a try. If you haven't tried a single stage, nice. I also run the Maritime, you guessed it, from Geissele. Their bolt catch, release, etc. on most of the firearms AR firearms I have, other than my Rattler, because it has a Radian lower. That is honestly better, I think, than this. But it's a built-in part. It's proprietary, etc. This works on almost any AR lower. Speaking of AR lowers, this is the Noveske Gen 4, and it is the biggest disappointment you will ever purchase, ever. I had some extra tax money and decided, hey, cool, I'm going to buy a couple Gucci lowers. Thinking in my head, I'll do some pictures, write up a review. Now I think I will probably video that review. So I won't go too far into it. For the most part, it just sucks. The biggest complaint I have is, and I have swapped this lower to another upper onto this lower, played the Legos, done the whole thing. It happens no matter what with this lower. If I have any, and I mean even 3 rounds in a mag, and I reload on a closed bolt, I am going in with no lube. It is not a good time to get that reload in there. I mean, really I'm literally squeezing it or grabbing the edge of this mag well and pushing the mag in to hear the click. I don't know why that is. It's not the only thing that I have an issue with. It's just, that's probably the most critical and annoying. If it's open bolt, not a big deal. So if you're doing a rapid reload, hey, it still works. It's not too big of a deal. It's just for $500, whoa, that's crazy. Speaking of for $500, whoa, that's crazy. The safety pin, the detent pin for your safety that goes up from your handguard, the hole was out of spec. Not got to run a drill through out of spec, but definitely with a punch, pushing the pin through and back out multiple times, shaving off a little bit of material. Same thing for both trigger pins, which I've installed a few triggers. Cool. Initially, when putting this in, I was like, okay, this one's just super being a pain in the ass, I guess. I have a couple little tools like the what do they call it? Like a slave pin. It sits in place so you don't have to really have a hard time installing your trigger. So I was fairly confident. I was like, okay, I don't think this is me. What's going on? And I'd already had an issue with the safety. So at that point, I was thoroughly pissed off for the money spent. And yes, same thing. I ended up having to, with a punch, push the trigger pins in with no trigger, shaving off some material, push them in, push them out, push them in, push them out, and then it was able to install the trigger. Is that super big deal? For $500? Yeah. Yeah, if you push yourself as a premium brand that is like top of the line, I think that's a huge deal. That is exactly what you're supposed to be buying something like this to avoid. I understand like people typically buy this for Instagram drip. However, if I'm going to buy it for Instagram drip, it sure as shit should function better than a $35 PSA stripped government lower. God's honest truth, this lower will likely depart this firearm. I just haven't got around to it yet. And also, in defense of Noveske, I haven't hit them up and said, hey, your lower's fucked or out of spec or a piece of shit, and you guys suck. And they, I haven't gone through that process, so I've not given them the opportunity to right this wrong. However, it is my honest opinion that for the money, that shouldn't happen in the first place. QC, do better. I don't know what it is, but y'all suck. Big trash. Tarnished your name, in my opinion. Moving up, this is a full PRI upper from PRI, 1/8 twist, Douglas barrel, the whole works. Got the gas buster in the back. I will think I do think that the gas buster is something I will swap out. It's nothing wrong, like I don't get gas to the face. It definitely works as intended, but it is only got the release on one side, and I just have gone used to having it on either side, being able to work it. And there's a lot of modern options now that work just as good as this, that have the release on both sides. That's probably the only reason I'd swap it, and because it's cheap to swap. Moving forward, I've got a little mag pole for the sling. I've got the Amazon Arca plate for the bottom. Someone makes, I can't remember their name right now, a full Arca plate for the bottom of this tube. I will buy that as soon as it comes in stock. They're a small company, people buy them up all the time. Tubes are popular, what can I say, they're sexy. So yeah, once it comes in stock, I'll find it and install it on here, and then I'll just run a full Arca plate across the bottom for the tripod work. On the bottom side, I've got the Atlas. If you like Harris bipods, you're broken. There's no other nice way to put that. And if you're spending $700 on a bipod, you are financially irresponsible and also broken. And that's coming from a guy who has this sitting on his gun table and pays $500 for Gucci lowers. So you're financially irresponsible for spending $700 some on a bipod. That's insane. The Atlas is a machine, man. This thing's sick. Works great. It kind of can get you out of a lot of pinches if you're in a weird kind of shooting position. And it works better than the Harris. Enough said. It's on every gun that I have that needs a tripod or is long enough to have a bipod, and is long enough to have a bipod, I put an Atlas on it. Call me a simp, whatever, I think they're based. On the other side, we finally found a place where money became an object. We have the Somo gear. It is the Somo gear Engall. I want the full power, yes, and I'm not willing to pay thousands of dollars for a lamb. Sorry, guilty. In my opinion, a lamb should be usable out to 100. If this comes off a 0, a smidge here and there, I'm still going to hit at 100, and it's good for signaling. For that, a Chinese knockoff does plenty fine. The only issue I've had with this at all was on my URGI, the top rail. When I had an issue at an East Coast night shoot, it was rocking back and forth because it's one center pin that mounts this to your rail. And I was like, man, cheap Chinese is what it is. That's what I get for, not spending the real money. Then brought it home, mounted it on this, Loctite, like no issue, no wiggle, nothing. Cool, moved it to an AK, moved it to a Block 2 M4, moved it to a couple others, Loctite on every single one of them. So I guess just the top rail on the Mark 18 rail for the URGI. The URGI rail is just whack, or has like a weird tolerance for these that it doesn't like them. It's like, nope, I'm Geisley, get that cheap shit away from me. I don't know what it is. It just didn't like this. But on this gun, it works great. That said, I have the OCM on the front as well, not the Allen Engineering. I do think Otter Creek does it better. Kentucky's where it's at. I think that's where they're based out of. The can is amazing. I don't have any cycling issues or gas to the face problems. It's real quiet, even running supers. 77 grains expensive. Thanks a bunch. And I also converted my Car 15. I had a Blood Diamond build. Now it's a Gordy build just because I like the can, and it's sick. Full kind of disclosure on that too. Yeah, you know, just like I said, abuse the ATF and make fun of them, and then they'll approve your can. So tube on a tube, big vibes. Up top, wow. Night Force is just the way. This is just the way. This is it. They converted me. This NX8, 2.5 to 20. It's their Mil-XT reticle, Night Force reticle, Night Force scope, Night Force rings. Man, I mean, holy crap. It is also, shout out Walter Weebull, what's up? The optic is just like godlike. It is just god tier optic. It is a medium power variable optic, and the 2.5 is extremely usable thanks to the incredible illumination on it. I will be honest, if you're not turning the scope on and you're not using your illumination, God help you, because the 2.5 is pretty thin. But on daylight bright illumination, middle of the day, man, that 2.5 is very usable. I will say, like anyone else will tell you with a high power scope, oh, you're probably only going to use this out to 14, 16-ish. Maybe if I go to Quantico, I'm on the East Coast, and I shoot out to 1,000 yards, I'll find myself really stretching this out into the 20 range. It's nice to have, though. If I needed to like PID something particular, it's nice to have the extra. Or even, honestly, if I'm spotting a buddy and we don't have the spotting scope or we didn't bring it, I can just spot with my optic. Yeah, Night Force has fully converted me with this optic. I had an EOTech on my URGI. Boom, we're swapping it. I want the 1-8 now, the attacker. The iBox, the box, its box is insane. Check comments. iBox is nuts on this thing. I even, with my night vision, as a gag the other night, was able to aim through this at night. The illumination goes down low enough, and I can actually get in there and shoot under nods through this scope at even 7 yards. You know, I was able to shoot multiple targets. That's insane for considering what this optic is. It's not made for that at all. I don't recommend doing that. Just use a laser, etc. But a testament to Night Force and this optic in general. The 2.5 to 20 is goated. If you have a not shooting like real bowling, past 1,000-yard rifle, this is a great optic for it. Keeps you usable on the short end if you want to run it with the buddies. I often have outshot my friends at 10 yards or 15 yards running drills with this optic and this heavy-ass gun. I don't know if that means my friends suck or that this optic is god tier. I'm voting for the later. Shout out to the homies. Yeah, so that's my Night Force ad. Buy Night Force. They're freaking sick. They're worth every penny, and I really did not like the price point on this bad boy, but it was worth it. I did get it on sale. Thank God. I have the Faro Concepts sling on here, and I think that pretty much wraps up the build. It's a great firearm. It definitely kind of converted me on, is 5.56 usable? If you spend enough money on the ammo and you buy something pretty fun, yeah, definitely you can build a special purpose rifle that can also be used as a general purpose rifle at the same time. And that's a very cool kind of space to live in. Also, suppress your guns, 100%. All I can say is, hey, in the comments, if you liked what you saw, I think in the future we're going to focus more on shooting and stuff like that. I have a couple of base friends here that we're able to go blast with, shoot out of cars, and do all kinds of fun stuff. we'll get some more of that content up, but I wanted to kind of do a couple gear breakdowns, and I've got some cool guns, and people always at the range are like, oh dude, that's freaking sick. I'm branching off from photography, trying my hand at video, so whatever you found and you didn't like, put it in the comments. I like critique, it helps me get better. Video's hard, Premiere Pro is gonna be the death of me, 100%, but I'm getting there, and I'm kind of enjoying it. So drop in the comments, tell me what you liked, and tell me what we could improve on. That's it for me, guys. Have a nice night.